I'm Manav. I've been in Udaipur now for about 3-4 years. I live with my wife and I have a son who's about 5 years old now. Majority of my professional career, I guess I did sports consulting, so that's managing sports organizations, looking at strategy side of sports or anybody intersects with sport, which include corporations and media and stuff like that. But more recently, I think I've pretty much dedicated my time into the volunteer sector. So I work for an organization. I'm the president of an organization called the Manav Singh Memorial Trust, longish name, but MSMMT for short. And we try to get people to volunteer towards causes, to connect people to issues. So I guess my education, let's ignore school for a second. I guess my first degree, was in mechanical engineering. So I did a bachelor's and a master's in mechanical engineering. And then because I didn't know what the hell I should do, I decided to study some more, buy some more time in between. I think I did some work, with Citibank or something. But then I did an MBA, that was in Australia. The engineering was in London at Imperial College. And then I think I've been, my original career in sports consulting was about 20 odd years. I did that. I started with a firm in Australia, and then I started my own in 2008, which had its own fun. So from 2008 till I guess about 5 years ago, that's what I did, roughly. Struggles in your career there, I guess everybody faces them, and they always seem like you're facing them for the first time, and how are you going to get over them? So I guess it's probably easier to start with the real struggles. Apart from when you're trying to look for a job in the first place, like what you do, how you get there. You think nobody will ever give you a job, but they always do. But let's fast forward to 2008 when I came back to India, and I've been doing sports consulting in a country, Australia, where sports was a business. It was easy to do things there. I was part of a group there, which grew very quickly. It was something quite new, and it was quite exciting. So when I came to India and tried to start it myself in India, consulting, I don't think the market was ready, or I thought it was, but I tried to replicate what I did in Australia in India. I don't think there was much appetite for that. So initially just breaking my head, trying to repeat what I knew already, to then thinking about, what's so different here. And I think that took me a good, 6 to 8 months. And that feels much longer when you're actually in it. Quite often, even though I wanted to hire people, at the same time I hired some people, and I was sitting in an office, not really doing much. But I realized after a while that actually India is perhaps seen as a knowledge center. Maybe I can still do the work that I was doing in other countries, but out of India. And I think that was quite clear. That actually helped a lot. And from there, we really did expand, and we did some interesting work globally in Mexico to Saudi Arabia to Qatar, back in Australia, lots of different projects. And I think I was getting very comfortable doing professional work in consulting out of India. My team grew. It was making a lot of money, if that matters. To a point where I think at one point I realized, when is enough? How much more do I need? And I think that journey started with just saying I'm not going to work anymore. And then I think I got married, I had a child, and then I did want to be productive. So I think by a few accidents I got into the volunteer sector, and I still try to define what that means. But I guess basically an NGO or a non-government organization which works in development issues. And about 3 and a bit years ago, actually almost 4 now, I started with MSMMT, Manav Singh Memorial Trust. I never like saying that full word. And I think the challenges there are way more than industry, because you're trying to make change, you're trying to address issues. We've in some ways taken easy issues, like for example, we work in waste. And clearly we don't do a very good job, because you can look at the paper and it's quite messy. Also the pollution level. So we think about these issues and see how we can meaningfully engage with them. And I would say if I was nice to ourselves. We do a lot of small experiments. We try different things. We have an environmental hub. We planted a forest which we maintain, unlike other people where you just plant a tree and then forget it. We do that. We do a children's festival. We have a film club. We have reading discussions every Friday. We pick up garbage every Saturday, or we restore objects or spaces. That's been different. When you think about all the amazing people around the world and like who you resonate with, or you click with, or you find something fascinating, I guess it's hard to say one particular person, because certain aspects of some key people, I guess, always fascinate you and makes you think that's incredible what the journey they've gone through, and what they've learned, what they reflected on, or how they've then conducted their life. I mean, I guess it's cliche to say Gandhi in some ways. I mean, I have a strange view on Gandhi in the sense that I think he has a lot to teach you, but you have to, I think, separate sometimes from what you learn from somebody, and then to think that he is perfect. And I think you do a lot of disservice to somebody when you elevate them to a point where they're like a god figure or whatever, because then you can't actually replicate anything, because you go they're too good, so I can now do whatever. So I think I think you can borrow things from Gandhi. Being an engineer, I think certain engineers always resonate with you. I mean, I guess the easy one is to quote Einstein. Imagination is more important than knowledge. I think that makes me think a lot about what you think, how you can imagine things. Then learning, or rote learning, or formal learning. How you can think beyond what is in front of you. So I think I find that quite relevant. Yeah. So advice when you're starting your career, I think would be good. Like if I could, my son is only 5 years old, but as you get to a point where you've finished your studies, and you're thinking about a career, one thing which is hard to do, and it's not always easy to find out, trying to follow your passion. You're trying to follow something that you at least have somewhat interest in. You can change your mind over time, but at least start that way. And don't be afraid of making mistakes. Don't be afraid of changing direction when you have to. But it's important to start that way. Not be so fearful. Try different things. Yeah, no. If I was to look back and was able to speak to my younger self and think how should I, how would I be different now if I had been able to know better back then? I would say I would probably, knowing that the journey I've come through, I would probably not say anything to myself. I think all those struggles, the successes. The journey is unique, and I think it brings you to this space eventually. And it could be different for everybody, and there's no right or wrong that way. So I think I would just hopefully silently observe my younger self and not actually change anything. I think it was important the kind of education I did. It was important the professional career I had. I think it was important to eventually ask myself the question of when is enough. And I guess for most people, it's it is economically linked. Also, it's linked to the idea of being more, better. But I think there is a question: when is enough, especially for yourself, and when can you actually maybe look outwards and think, what can you actually contribute to the life that you have? Yeah. Leadership is an interesting idea. It makes you think it's a static idea. There's some leaders and there's some followers. I think you should be a good follower when there is somebody providing the lead, and respect that during that time, because it does take an effort to follow also, and also to give respect to who's leading. I guess in my case, I guess I was. In some ways, in some situations, I had to be a leader, and now in this volunteer organization, which I have this arbitrary title of president. I guess I have to decide what are we doing, how are we going to do it. So I can see that some of the things we do, like for example, in working in waste, it's not good enough to just tell people to do things. How do you go through that journey? How do you understand the struggles of those who follow you? I think it's important to be part of the detail also. It doesn't mean you get bogged down by the detail and you get involved when you do need others to help you get somewhere. But I think realization of what it takes to actually get things done and having empathy for others is something which is important. And I think great leaders you can definitely point to, but I'm not sure even they were always leaders. I think they always oscillate between being a leader versus following and vice versa. But it's a good question to ask. What makes you a leader or not? Yeah, no, I was born in India. I was here till I was about 8 years old, and then my parents moved to Saudi Arabia. My father was in the airlines, so I was in Saudi, in Jeddah, which is on the coast, the Red Sea. I think when you're growing up, it's a really fun place, and for everybody really. When everything is illegal, everything is fun. From the age of about 8 till about 15, I was in Saudi. At 15, the education for a lot of expats kind of ends there. So I went to London. I was in London for schooling, A-levels they're called, and then university. So that was away from family, but I used to travel back and forth quite a lot. My father was still in the airline, so everybody thought I was some rich sheikh because I would fly back every 2 weekends. So every second week on a Friday evening, I would fly out and come back every Monday morning. It was good fun. I think for the first 2 years, I didn't even do my laundry. I think I made my mother do it. That was always nice. And then after England, seeing I finished engineering, I did go to Boeing at that time. I did an internship in Boeing in Seattle. That was also very interesting. And then soon I found myself, like I told you before, I think, I wasn't sure if engineering was for me. So I studied some more. I did my MBA. That was in Australia. So then I ended up in Australia. I think I was still growing up then. I think I was in my 20s, and that's where I found my passion of working in sport. I was always involved in sport. Actually, I think majority of my childhood life was all linked to sport. I was a swimmer, and being fit, I guess I got involved in lots of other sport. But I thought I would be a professional swimmer, so I would train twice a day. So my day mostly started at like 4:30 in the morning with a run, then 6:30 I would be in the pool till 8 till school started. Of course, you had some kind of physical activity in school, and when school ended, and 2 o'clock back in the pool, then 4 o'clock back home, eat something, then out again playing basketball or another run till about 8, 9 in the evening, come back, have dinner, and go to sleep by 10 because I had to wake up the next morning at 4:30. So I think, it was a pretty focused youth, very much around sport and all the things that came from that. When you're thinking around, education, and I think especially in a country like India, and I will speak from the external in this case, I think we put too much pressure on what is education, and we think it is all about these grades and the studying, and that experience is interesting. The journey is interesting, the struggles, the interactions, your friends. You're trying to figure out how you connect, how you learn, how you understand. But I think education is too formal a word. It also is structured in a way where there are those who are good, and those who come up on top, and those who are the rest. And I think it's a system which disadvantages the majority, because obviously they're only the 2% on top, and the rest are 98%. I think you should, of course, go through that process and figure out if you're the 2%, and even then, your struggles haven't ended, because then you have other challenges. So realize that actually the experiences throughout matter. When you are studying, work hard, make sure you're taking it seriously, but also don't forget that that's just a small part of what will eventually make you. Education is a very clean part of your life. It's very focused. It should be fun. And if you're not finding it fun, then you need to tweak it somewhere. Figure out where you need to tweak it. But the experiences are cumulative. While education seems to have an end, you're going to do this and you're going to finish here. So make sure you find enough experiences and create experiences and look for those experiences. Because I guess that's the real learning in life. Yeah, I know. I guess I'm relatively new to the development field or this volunteer sector, let's say. And externally people see that we're doing lots of good stuff. Internally, I go, we're far away from actually solving anything or doing anything meaningful. But I think what helps is this idea that maybe if you keep on experimenting, you will figure it out. And it isn't, especially with development, it doesn't have to end with you. So how do you start the process? How do you lay the road that maybe others can expand on? And I'll have my limitations and the way I am, the way I think. But if I'm true to at least being able to do as much as I can, and in my case, I think it's finding meaningful experiments, and focusing on them. Consistency. I think. So, for example, we do these Friday reading discussions. So we share articles and then we discuss them. They're short articles. And now I think we will be at 272 consecutive Fridays. So, and sometimes it's very bad because there's only about 2-3 people. And before it was a physical meeting, now it's a Zoom meeting. But we continued. We continued. Like last Friday was Christmas Friday, and we have a bit of fun in Christmas. But I made sure that we send that article out. And this Friday will be the first of the month. So yeah, consistency I think is important because then you can iterate, you can learn, you can evolve what you're doing. You can learn from your mistakes. But it takes a lot of effort just to keep things going. So yeah, so consulting is what I started to do. This management consulting in sports was very intense. When I started my own business, I was maybe out 7-8 months a year, flying to different countries, delivering projects. Sometimes you were up till 3-4 in the morning, and you literally sleep on the floor, and you wake up at 7, and you go again, and it's on, and there's deadlines and the project work and all that kind of stuff. But with this volunteer sector, because the issues are so much larger, and maybe I'm older and maybe more tired, or maybe I found a different pace. Now I find that I stay focused. I know what I'm doing, but I'm not in a rush. So I give myself a lot of space to do other things. And what I found very interesting to do in Udaipur is explore. So I cycle a lot, and my objective is to find new places. They're new to me. They're new to a lot of cyclists. So I go out in random directions. I look at Google Maps. I look at where there are no roads, typically where there are no roads, and then try to see if I can carry my bike over some mountain or whatever. And even though it might appear like Udaipur is fairly similar in all directions, but actually it's very beautiful and lots to see. And I think in Badi Lake now, Bahubali Hill is really popular, and I'm just amazed how just this one thing people are so fascinated when there's so much out there. And from waterfalls to rivers to huge mountains to creeks to different types of trees to I think there are over 100 lakes. Most people just think there are a few. There are over 100 big lakes. I mean, the size of Fateh Sagar, I'm saying. But most people wouldn't even think that. So much bird life, so much animal life, and so much a gentler way of living also. I think Udaipur is very quickly becoming a big city, and it only has one vision of development. And I think that's kind of sad because I think it typically creates more division between those who have and don't have. And I think it would be nicer if there was more comforts, of course, in let's say a village life. But I'm not sure if the city life is the right model. So yeah. Thank you for listening to me. I'm not sure how much I have to share that resonates with you, but perhaps you can reflect on some of the things that my life has had so far. Yeah, I know. I think you can believe in yourself, and don't be afraid of making mistakes. Be yourself. Don't let people put you down too much. Just try things, but be good. Be nice to others. I think just being nice to others is hard enough for most of us. If you can do that, then you really succeeded in life. Thank you.